Welcome to Technically Marv, and technically owning your own media is pretty cool. I've been running Plex for 8 years now. I bought a lifetime Plex Pass back in July of 2018 after messing around with the free version for a month or two, and back then it was a no-brainer. This was the golden age of Plex. It was all over Linus Tech Tips and that entire era of Homelab content. I was running it on an old Windows machine at the time, ripping my own Blu-rays by hand, managing every single file myself, and it was great. Plex was amazing. If you wanted to host your own media, you ran Plex and you didn't think twice about it. Fast forward to today, and honestly, I'm not so sure anymore. If you've spent any time in the self-hosting space lately, you've seen the takes. Plex is dead. Plex sold out. Just switch to Jellyfin already. You're a sucker for giving them even a single dollar. And on the other side, you've got people who will defend every decision the company makes, no matter how unpopular they are. I'm not interested in settling that argument. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Plex is dead, and I'm not going to tell you to rage quit over to Jellyfin either. What you're getting instead is an honest version, 8 years in, lifetime pass and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the one question that actually counts, if I were starting over today, would I still buy in? And that question matters more than ever because the lifetime pass that's that used to make Plex an easy recommendation now runs for $750, 3 times what I paid for mine. So if you've been wondering whether Plex is still worth buying into, this is the video for you. Let's get into it. Good first, and there's plenty of it. This is the part that explains why I've stuck around for 8 years and why even now I'm in no real hurry to leave. The single biggest thing for me is simple. It just works. I'm heavily into the Apple ecosystem, iPhones, iPads, and most importantly, an Apple TV, which is where I do the vast majority of my private media watching. And the Plex app on Apple TV is excellent. It's polished, it's fast, it plays what I throw at it. For someone whose living room runs on Apple hardware, that matters a lot. Piggybacking off of that, the HDR and Dolby Vision support has come a long way. And I want to be clear, this used to be a real sore spot. We'll come back to that later. But these days, I can sit down on my Apple TV and play a HDR file natively without it looking washed out or broken. It used to be I'd have to pull out Infuse just to watch anything in HDR. Now I rarely touch it. This is a genuine improvement, and I'll give credit where it's due. The next big one is sharing. This is where that lifetime pass earns its keep. I share my server with family and a handful of close friends, and because I've got the pass, all of them can stream from my library with zero extra cost or hassle. Inviting someone is genuinely seamless. I send an invite, they spin up their own Plex account, and they get access to exactly the libraries I grant them. And the granular control is great. My kids get access to media tagged with the kids label. I don't have to worry about them stumbling into something they shouldn't. That kind of control, done easily through a clean interface, is one of the things Plex still does better than anyone. Now, for the Homelab crowd. My Plex server runs the official Docker container on the same Unraid box I've covered in my previous videos. It transcodes off the integrated graphics card on my i9-14900K, and that little iGPU is more than enough for everything my family throws at it. And here's the part that honestly belongs in the good column. In 8 years, I have had almost no recurring maintenance pain with Plex. It sits there, it runs, it does its job. For a piece of infrastructure my whole family depends on, that reliability is worth a lot. And last one for the good, and this one's got a story attached. A while back, Plex finally killed the mobile unlock fee. For those of you who don't know, there used to be a one-time fee just to watch your own media for more than 1 minute on a phone or a tablet. I found out about this the hard way. I was helping my non-technical niece get set up on my server, and she kept telling me she couldn't watch anything, so I dug in. And that's when I discovered this fee. I'd already bought a Plex Pass so my family could use my server, and now I'm being told my niece has to pay again just to watch on her phone. I paid it for her, but I was not happy about it. So when Plex did away with that bit of nonsense, that was a solid move on their part. To be fair, they never should have had it in the first place, but credit is credit. Hold on to that niece story though, because it'll be back. Now, the flip side, and I want to be clear before I start swinging. The day-to-day experience with Plex has been solid for me. Most of what lands in the bad column isn't software falling over, it's the direction. So this isn't me telling you Plex is broken, because it isn't. It's me being straight about what's been rubbing me the wrong way. The biggest one for me is the app constantly trying to shove me into their cloud and streaming section. I run Plex to manage my own personal media. I did not sign up for a Netflix replacement, but more and more, the app wants to push me toward their content, their recommendations, their ecosystem, instead of just showing me my own library. Now, to be fair, you can disable a lot of this. I've gone in and turned off most of it, but here's the thing. Not all of it goes away. There's still parts of the interface that nudge you back towards their stuff. And for a product that started its life as a tool to manage your own media, that's a frustrating direction to wash. The second one for the bad column ties back to what I mentioned earlier, the HDR and Dolby Vision support. Yes, it's good now, but it took years of the user base complaining about washed out broken HDR playback before Plex actually did something about it. This is a paid product with a paid pass, and basic correct HDR playback shouldn't have been a multi-year battle. They got there, I'm glad they did, but the road to get there was way longer than it should have been. And last one in the bad column is the security side. Plex has now had multiple data breaches, including 2 just in 2025 alone, with the most recent one forcing a mass password reset across the board. Now, I was not directly burned by this. I've got 2-factor turned on. I rotated my password the moment I heard, and because my server lives on my own Unraid box that I keep patched, I didn't feel much real pain. So this isn't a catastrophe story. And to be fair, just about every big name company has had a breach or 2 in the last 5 years. But every time it happens, my trust in them as a company erodes just a little bit more. And trust matters when you're handing a company a lifetime relationship. Now, for the ugly, same disclaimer I gave during the Unraid video. None of this is about bugs. This is about the stuff baked into the decisions Plex has made, the direction of the company, and the things you just have to accept if you're going to keep running it. The big one, the thing that bugs me the most, is the identity shift. Plex started as a tool to manage your own library. That was the whole point. Me and just about every other Homelabber got into Plex to take control of our own media. We did not get into it to be handed a fake me out Netflix full of stuff we didn't ask for. And that's the direction the company keeps leaning into. The personal media server, the actual core of what Plex is, increasingly feels like an afterthought next to their streaming and discovery ambitions. And it's not just one decision, it's the pattern. Plex has gotten into this cycle. They make a deeply unpopular decision, they wait for the community to be outraged, they walk it back a little for a few months or a few years, and then they do it again. The HDR 10 took years of outrage. The pricing and the remote streaming paywall fit the same mold. I genuinely can't fault a company for being profit-driven. That's how the lights stay on, but it's how they go about it, seemingly ignoring what their actual user base wants and chasing whatever the trend of the moment is. That's what's turning me off. And here's the honest part, the part I really want to be straight with you about. I'm grandfathered in. The lifetime pass tripling to $750, the remote streaming paywall, none of that cost me a single cent. So you might be asking, Marv, if it doesn't affect you, why do you even care? Here's why. A few years ago, a friend of mine wanted to set up his own media server, and I told him, run Plex. And if you like it, grab the lifetime pass. Today, I'm not so sure I'd give that same advice. And with the lifetime pass jumping to $750, I definitely wouldn't. The Plex of 2026 is a very different animal from the Plex I bought into in 2018. And I keep asking myself, what do I depend on today that they decide to put behind a paywall tomorrow? Remember, my niece couldn't watch anything because of a mobile unlock fee on media I'd already paid for. Now, it's remote streaming behind a wall. Same move, just a bigger wall. The harsh truth is this. If I didn't already have the lifetime pass, and if the app didn't still clear my basic bar of just working, I'd have walked away years ago. The only reason I'm still here is that there genuinely isn't a good enough replacement yet, and we'll get into that. The last thing in the ugly bucket is the cloud account dependency, and this is one I've made my peace with. As someone who self-hosts everything I can, it does bug me that my self-hosted server still has to phone home to Plex.tv to authenticate. That's a leash, and I'm well aware of it. But to be fair, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. That same account system is what makes sharing so painless. When I want to add someone to my server, I send an invite. They make their own account and they're washing. So for me, the cloud account is a necessary evil, not a deal breaker, but absolutely something a self-hosting purist needs to know about. So, after 8 years, a lifetime pass, and a growing list of grievances, should you use Plex? I can't answer that honestly without addressing the elephant in the room, Jellyfin. Because every time Plex annoys me, that's where I go looking. And I've tried it twice now. The first time was back in 2020 or 2021, right after the whole mobile unlock tin with my niece. That moment is actually what sent me looking for alternatives in the first place. Jellyfin was only a couple years old then. The web interface was great, the mobile app was decent, but the Apple TV app, Swiftfin, was basically non-existent. It was in beta, I signed up, and I had all kinds of problems. Media wouldn't play, the app kept crashing, and since the Apple TV is my main way of watching, that was a deal breaker. So I shelved it and figured I'd revisit it in a couple years. The second time was 2024. By then, Swiftfin was more or less out of beta, no test flight needed, and you could just grab it in the App Store. It was more stable, and I'll give it credit, the gap had closed, but a lot of the same issues were still there. HDR and Dolby Vision playback still wasn't reliable, and by this point, Plex had fixed all that. I still got weird crashes, the mobile app couldn't download media to my device for offline viewing, which means when I travel, I'm right back on Plex. Remote access also takes a lot more effort to set up than it does on Plex, and it was still missing features I've gotten used to, like intro skipping. Oh, and one I didn't expect, no way to view images. I keep my family photos in my media library as an off-cloud backup, and I like being able to pull them up on the TV for guests. Plex does that natively, Swiftfin just couldn't. Now, as a technical person, none of that is a true deal breaker. I could spend a weekend wiring up remote access and manually managing users and bend Jellyfin into what I need. But that's exactly the point. Why would I spend a weekend doing that when I'm already a lifetime pass holder with a server that just works for me and my family? So I crawl back to Plex every time. So here's my honest verdict, and it depends on who you are. If you're already in the Plex ecosystem, you like it for the ease of use, and you can live with the mild annoyances they keep piling on, then you've got a tough decision on your hands to figure out whether the lifetime pass is still worth it for you, even now that it sits at $750. What you're really buying at that price is never having to think about Plex pricing again. And if you've got a whole house of devices streaming every day, I get the appeal. But I'll be straight with you. $750 is a hard number to swallow, and it's not one I'd personally pay today. Only you can make that call though. If you're not technical, or you're sharing with family, parents, kids, people who just want to hit play and have it work, then go with Plex. Jellyfin will turn you into the family help desk, and that's a job nobody wants, trust me. But if you're a technical person who wants full privacy, no subscriptions, open source control, and every feature for free, then right now there is no better option than Jellyfin. And I mean that. Even with all of my own gripes about it, if you're even a little bit technical and you're not already locked into the Plex ecosystem, I'd point you at Jellyfin today. As for me, I'm staying. I've got the lifetime pass, a server that works, and a family that uses it, but I'm watching closely. And I'm keeping that Jellyfin escape hash in the back of my mind, because the day it finally closes the gap on Apple TV, Plex is going to have a real problem on its hands. So that's where I land. 8 years, one lifetime pass, and a relationship that's gotten complicated to say the least. Nobody paid for this one. Plex isn't sponsoring me, and I don't make a cent whether you buy a pass or not. This is just what it actually looks like to live with Plex for the long haul. If you got something out of this, the like and subscribe buttons genuinely do move the needle for a channel this size, so go ahead and use them. Next up, I'm thinking about actually putting my money where my mouth is and attempting a full Jellyfin migration, leaving Plex behind to see how far I get with Jellyfin. If that's something you want to watch, say so. And if you've got your own Plex horror story, I want to hear it. The comments are right there. I'm Marv, this is Technically Marv, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.